Well, good morning. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's Wednesday Wellness. Thank you for joining Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. We want to say thank you for all of those who have reached out to us. iHeart Radio podcast, Spotify podcast, Apple podcast, and much, much more. We want to say thank you so much for including us in the podcast family. We now can be heard on AMP app. Thank you so much for your choice. Welcome to our program. We are here and we'd like to say good morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, Trish.
Good morning.
This is Wednesday Wellness. Top of the morning is always asking the question, what are we so thankful for this morning? I'm thankful for being able to wake up and just be ready to deal with the day. Starting off with some kind of allergies. Not going to let that get me down, but I'm going to keep on pushing till I can't push anymore. How about you, Trish? What are you thankful for this morning?
I'm thankful that it's 7 degrees cooler today because yesterday was very hot. It was hot all week.
Yeah, it's been hot here. And Trish, you want to tell the people where you're from? State.
I'm from South Carolina.
And I'm from Palmdale, California. I am your host, and Trish is your co-host for Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. I want to say thank you to so many of you who are looking at our reels. I cannot believe the response that we are getting. I'm so very grateful for that. Without you, we'd just be here all alone. So we want you to know we appreciate you 100%. Do you have any thank yous to the people, Trish? Anyone in particular?
I have two thank yous to Courtney Franklin McLevine from South Carolina and Liv the Queen from South Carolina for giving me a like on my Trish's Treasures reel about consistency.
Okay. Thank you so much. Make sure you put that up and also put on our board today in the comments where they can find Trish's Treasures. Trish's Treasures is affiliated with Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. Our Vibe Talk reels can be found either by looking through Vibe Talk Facing the Lion reels. If you would put that up, I would so greatly appreciate that. We want to hear from you on this Wednesday Wellness. Why? Because Wednesday Wellness is all about your well-being. Your well-being is priority. How you're feeling, if you're well in yourself, if you need to get well, if you need to stay well, and if you need to just get well. That's what it's all about here. We'll be right back after this commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. You want a one-on-one with Vibe Talk? I'm a wellness coach, and you can get in contact with me directly through our very own Facebook page on Vibe Talk on Facebook, Vibe Talk on Instagram. Don't forget the lion. One-on-one consultation virtually. You can schedule your next appointment with us. We're back, and thank you for joining us. We are talking about wellness today, and I thought today's topic would be good because it really is all about welling yourself. How do you well yourself? Because a lot of people want to know. A lot of people want to get well, even in the smallest sense of the word. So, what is your way to well yourself? I want to let you in on something. Welling yourself has a lot to do with being willing to. You know, so many of us are determined to do this, that, and the other. But let me ask you, are you willing to well yourself? Today is all about that. Stay tuned with us. We also want you to know that we are live. And as we are live, you can direct connect with us at any time during and after the program. 661-503-8993 is a direct connect to Vibe Talk Facing the Lion. While you're searching for help, you're searching for a way to be able to get out your emotions, what you've been going through, what you seem to think no one understands but you. But I want to ask you something today, food for thought, and I want you to draw what your wellness regimen looks like. That's right, a free artist's perception, your perception of what your wellness is looking like. And let me ask you, in your search for wellness, when was the last time that you felt as if you were being heard or seen, and that you're being mindful of your own identity and experience? And we'll talk about that. When was the last time you felt like you were heard and seen? Trish? Hello?
I'm
We
here.
are live.
Um,
Okay. We are live. Keep that in mind. And we are nationwide. And this is going live. When was the last time you felt that you were seen or heard?
I'd say the last time I felt I was seen or heard was when I did my presentation.
And what
Um,
was that
I
about and
thought
what was that like?
my presentation was about music and my personal insight on it. And I struggled with fear, thinking it would be too boring and people will lose interest in the middle of my presentation. But boy, was I wrong. I was very about that.
Okay, and how did that turn out?
It turned out great. I got a perfect score, and I've learned from that. I'm very hard on myself. I just need to have faith in my abilities and just go with the risk. Take risk and not be so afraid to do it.
Yes, risk taking. When we challenge ourselves, we spoke about that, about challenging ourselves. Vibe Talk is all about your lion-like challenges, and your lion-like strength. And sometimes when you don't think you have the strength, indeed you find the strength through your own experiences. Because many of you haven't been challenged enough to find out what your challenges are or who you are. Challenge yourself to find your own identity, your own experience. You know, Trisha said something that is profound when you talked about music. Music is your interest, and I want all those who are out there to first start by telling me what some of your interests are, where you are stronger. You can even draw such an example like this pyramid here, or not pyramid, but the circle, and color your line, color your squares, your pi squares. Where are your strengths? And I want you to draw what that looks like, where your strength lies. We want to hear from you. So even if we're in the program, you can direct connect with us through text mail, our voicemail, texting and voicing, and direct connect. What have been some of your experiences? For me, it's just starting a podcast. Um, with that, I challenged myself because I was given the advice to go out there. People listen to you. And the experience, oh boy, it's a lifetime. It's a chapter in my life. And I'm so grateful to each and every one of you, including my co-hosts. Thank you. How about in life, when you think about your wellness? How have you been helped, or have you been helped? You know, because a lot of you say, you know, I've been in therapy, I'm doing this, I'm taking recovery classes, um, I'm in counseling, but now I want to ask you, have you found your own answers instead of whoever is counseling you telling you what to do? Have you challenged yourself to find your own answers? And this is what Wednesday Wellness is all about: your well being, your safe space to be on your wellness journey. And I want to say, if you are hitting this podcast live or thereafter, that you think about your wellness, because you are valuable. You are of value. Start by telling yourselves that, and know that you have lion-like strength. With your strength comes courage, the courage to be able to want to find your answers to you, learning to access yourself. See, we always want to find the opening. You know, if you had a key belongs to something. Every key that you ever have, there is a purpose for it. Okay? What is the key to you? I remember when we started the podcast in our earlier times, we had everybody make a key. Everybody was told to do that, or was not told, but everybody had an assignment. What these assignments do is to remind you of something of yourself. What is your key to opening? And if you're here for the first time, or you've heard this podcast for the first time, we are talking about faith, safe space, and helping you to well yourself. Well yourself. Don't be afraid to well yourself. Everyone must get well, stay well, and be well. What about you? Gain access to yourself without having people think for you. And I want to ask you, with that being said, when was the last time you actually made a decision for yourself? I made a decision just this morning. Life is all about decisions. When was the last time, Trish, you made a decision for yourself without being coached by someone?
I'd say this morning. I feel I'm not feeling well, but I made a decision to show up here anyway because I know I can, so I'm here.
Yeah. Well, in yourselves. Sometimes we're going to make decisions without the prompt of other people. And we're not saying not to listen to other people, because we don't want for anyone 18 and you're still living in your parents' home, you must listen to the voice of your parents. I want to put that out there, because we are not making disclaimers of you don't have to listen to someone. We're simply saying initiate in your own mind that you must make decisions. Life is all about decisions. So that when you start becoming experienced and well, you know how to make right decisions. You'll make some challenging decisions. And that's what life is all about. Without them more challenging, you wouldn't have room to grow. We want you to have growth room, space for growth. Okay? Finding your own answers. Now, how many of you have in your lifetime, as you're looking for wellness, as you look for wellness, you need the safe space to be able to get well and be well? How many of you feel uncomfortable? Uncomfortable. And we say this is because so many of you are recognizing us, but very, very few of you are in our lives. We want to ask you, what are you uncomfortable with? We want to hear from you, because this podcast is one that touches to the very depth of your soul. If you go back in the past of our podcast, you'll see how we are on YouTube, and I'm hoping that our latest podcast is up and running for YouTube. Find and follow us where we are. Wednesday Wellness is all about your wellness. So we're asking you the question, while feeling uncomfortable, is there ever a time in your life where you may have felt unsafe or even judged? If that is what's stopping you from being here, never fear, because this is your safe space. Even if you come in and you don't want to use your name, you can make yourself anonymous right here virtually. But we want to tell you something. Nobody has the right to judge anyone. We all do it. Sometimes we say, well, we don't judge people, but we do. Let me show you how it works. I saw somebody yesterday, and my reaction was judgmental. So if I am a wellness coach and I do it instinctively, admit to yourself, honestly, that the natural thing is for us to judge. Here, we won't stand for it. Even though that was a natural reaction for what I saw, because it was in my perception and it was appalling to me. It was appalling to me. I'm not even going to say what it was by the looks of things. Now, we all do that. How many of us really do that? We all do it. When was the last time that you did? Do you remember? Sorry, guys. When was the last time that you reacted by facial expression or thought of judging someone?
The last time I judged somebody was when I wanted to tell my dad that I didn't want to be a nurse because he wanted me to be a nurse, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not for me, and I know that. But I judged him by saying he's not gonna understand me. I'm just not gonna tell him. Probably go through the program and not like it, but to make him happy. But I was very judgmental. All I had to do was say I didn't want to do that. I want to be a teacher. So it's okay to judge people. It's normal, but we have to have empathy and be understanding and step inside other people's shoes in those situations.
While thank you for that. While judging is a natural reaction or response, judging people without having heard their story wouldn't be fair. I'll say that. Why are we bringing this up? Because people fear being judged. People feel unsafe while being judged. And I know right now, upon meeting so many people in my lifetime, half of the people you may have judged, while the other half you're giving a pass to. Why not think about how you or I would feel? And that's the way I needed to start thinking, because people have judged me without hearing my story or without knowing my story. So when you come in here, we want you to feel safe. Safe is all a part of your wellness. Being judged, no one has a right to do that because they don't know your story. We are here to speak freely. What does your safe space look like? We have an example that you can draw. How many pi squares are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, I'm counting that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. We want you to be able to fill in those spaces. And if you're not sure as to how to work that, if you're interested, Vibe Talk is all about wellness. And we want you to get well, be well, and stay well. Would you please? We'll be right back. Vibe Talk Facing the Lion is all about wellness, getting well, being well, and staying well. Get with me, your host, for a one-on-one virtual consultation, virtual session, wherever you may be, at work, school, play, right here by the click of the button. Join Vibe Talks live conversation right here on our very own page. Why? Because we like you. We're back, and we're talking about getting well, being well, and staying well today. Safe space for you. What is it looking like? A lot of times people are afraid of something. What are you fearing? Because we know that all of us have a story. Wouldn't life be different if we knew every person in the inside? See, we take our visions for granted. How so? Because when you look directly at something, that is what the eye sees. But now there is another part of us that has to work even harder to see the insides of a person. And you say, why, Miss Nisi, that is the most irrational thing that you've ever said. Though not true, I want you to realize that you have the eyes of a heart, the eyes of the heart. It's what the heart sees, how the heart responds. How many times have we saw a baby and our heart just melts? How many of you have had that experience?
I have.
Anybody? The heart is affected by what it sees. You have the eyes of your heart. Challenge yourself to have a little bit more of that. Maybe a spoonful, maybe even a tablespoonful, maybe a cupful. We all need that to see with our heart, because the world would be such a better place if you and I were to do that without fearing what the eyes see on the outside. How do you understand that, Trish?
I understand it like we need to be more open and look at things from the inside more and inside of us first.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with us. We have to look at things with love and not fear and of being afraid of how others view us, but more so looking at things at a different lens
Mm-hmm.
with more emotion
Mm-hmm.
instead of judgment.
Sympathy, feel what they feel, even if you haven't been through anything like them. You've experienced emotion, you've experienced feeling, you've experienced being able to understand the emotion and the feeling, though it's never happened to you. How so? Because you feel when they feel. I tried an experiment, and I love this experiment. You know, the one where we talked about feelings? Well, speaking of feelings, just responding by smiling at people. You know, I am smiling at people to watch their reaction, and the majority has been very positive. How many of you are still afraid to smile at another person? Or have you tried the smile test? Smiling at somebody? Are you still uncomfortable with smiling at people as you're walking
I
by.
am.
You are? Go ahead, Trish. Tell us what you are.
I am uncomfortable with smiling at people when I pass.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anybody that has passed me and they think I'm upset. I'm not mad at you. It's just I'm very closed off when I'm in public. I'm afraid to speak and interact with people in public.
You're doing fine now and you're in public. The whole world. See how you can discover your lion-like strength? That's why Facebook is a world wide web. You're doing just fine. So, like Trish, so many of us have experienced those feelings. And that's what I'm saying about finding your discovery. Finding and discovering something about yourself to do more of so that you can get well, be well, and stay well. Because those are not uncommon feelings, Trish. They're not uncommon. Um, there are some mornings where I get up and I just don't feel like smiling at people, give or take. You know, we wake up for whatever reason. That happens a lot, but I have to challenge myself. But now, when you are learning to be more comfortable with yourself and you're finding discoveries about yourself, I want you to think about where your value lies within yourself. Where are you on this wellness scale? See, we don't tell you that you need to get well. Wednesday is all about wellness, but now we're going to leave this open circle for you to think about your wellness and where you are, and maybe use this pie circle to help yourself, to well yourself, to start on your wellness journey. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about boundaries as soon as we return. Stay with us. You want a one-on-one with Vibe Talk? Check us out on our very own Facebook page at Vibe Talk and on Instagram. Or ask Google, Siri, or Alexa for Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. We're here for you with a virtual one-on-one should you choose that. We are back and we are going to talk about boundaries. What is boundary? Trish, do you have anything you'd like to say on boundaries? What are boundaries?
Boundaries are like fences, a sort of stop sign to protect yourself. That's something I have to work on because my mindset says if I set boundaries for people that I love, it's setting off a message that I don't love them as much as the other person. And I'm working on that because just because you love somebody doesn't mean they will never hurt you. It doesn't mean that. So you have to have boundaries to protect the relationship you have between them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. I'm going to give you the real definition of boundaries. Trish, I love yours. Boundaries show where one thing ends and another begins. Boundaries in a relationship are kind of like this. They help each person, they help you and I to understand where one person in and the other begins. Boundaries help you and I to define what things are comfortable and how you would like to be treated by others. I'm going to ask you another question as you get closer. Come closer wherever you are that you can really hear me. Have you set boundaries? Did you know that boundaries are like those gates that Trish talked about? A personal line between you and myself. A personal line between you and others. It helps you to understand responsibility, taking responsibility. You know, we set boundaries. Oftentimes, children are met with boundaries. You know, for many around the nation, it has been the starting of a new school year. And the first thing the teacher does is set clear boundaries for that classroom. So boundaries, if you will, are like rules that you've set. Some of us live by them, while others of us are struggling to set clear boundaries. Boundaries define for you and myself who we are and who we are not. What are some boundaries that you have safely in place for yourself? I'll start with me, and then we'll ask my co-host. Boundaries of knowing that when I get into a car, that I will stick to driving the speed limit. Sometimes I drive under. It is very rare that I'm going to drive over. Why? Because I have the responsibility as a licensed driver to watch out for others. Not only to keep myself safe, but to keep others safe. Clear boundary. What about you, Trish?
A boundary that I have is not hanging with people that will influence me or encourage me to do something that I wouldn't do or something that I don't feel comfortable doing.
Okay. For example,
For example, if they want me to go to a party where there's a lot of drinking and other things that I wouldn't do, I wouldn't hang around them because they're not respecting my space, and they're not in being respectful and saying, okay, I respect that you don't like that sort of thing.
hmm yeah. Thank you for that. And I had to explain that because we get listeners or viewers who don't understand what we're talking about. But if you're having clear boundaries or issues where there are no boundaries for you or the people in your life that you're responsible for, and we're not talking about older people, we're talking about the younger people. Because even with Vibe Talk, we set clear boundaries. We set boundaries. We want you to be able to think about boundaries that can be either emotional or physical or mental boundaries. If you're um, on social medias, would you actually go out and share your passwords with others? How many of you are cool with doing that? You share your password.
I used to be.
Used to be cool with sharing your password?
Yes, in a relationship, I used to be.
Okay. And we are talking about relationships. I'm glad you brought that up. What changed that for you?
Because it felt very suffocating because the person kept going into my account and seeing who I was talking to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, then that's a whole nother issue because obviously the person had trust issues if they've got to do that. Did you recognize that?
Yes, I did.
What was your breaking point for you that you set clear boundaries for yourself?
That breaking point was when we had an argument actually about me changing my password. He got upset that he couldn't go into it. And I was like, I changed my password because I want my space. You should be able to trust me. And he had an attitude about it, but I stood my ground, surprisingly. And yeah, it ended off like that.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we just have to set those clear boundaries. And we are talking about relationships as well, because if you're in relationships, you need to set clear boundaries. We're going to be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for more with Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. We'll be right back. Hey, Vibe Talk here. Do you want a virtual session individualized and customized only for you? Click on our Facebook page and find us wherever you are. We will set you up with what's right for you and what helps you to express and tell your story. We're here for you. Just click on our very own Facebook page, Vibe Talk. We're here for you. We are back and we're talking about setting boundaries in safe spaces. We're talking about a whole lot of wellness, being well, staying well, and getting well. How about this one? In relationships, I'm comfortable kissing and holding hands, but not in public. PDA. John Legend has a song about that. Public display of affection. Maybe not necessarily kissing. How far do you go with the PDA? Are you comfortable holding hands? Or how do you feel about that? Some people don't have boundaries and may need to check into a room. I'll leave that right there. But how comfortable are you with that? Setting boundaries. While we're on that subject, we talk about a broad spectrum of relationships. My grandson is now 4 years old, and what we're teaching him is safe space. Safe space. Do you have a safe space of where you say, don't touch me there, don't touch me here? I teach him, when I hold his hands, these are his hands, and his hands belong to himself. That it's not okay to be touched when you don't want to be touched. You see, helping a 4-year-old to understand that. Now, as for you grown folks, there's a such thing as sexual harassment. How many of you have heard of that? And there are setting boundaries at work now. There are certain things you cannot do and cannot say anymore. You see, for you men, you see a nice looking woman that's dressed nicely, you cannot whistle at her anymore. People used to do that. Now that's being classified as sexual harassment. You women, same goes for you. You see a good looking man, you can't conduct yourself any way that you'd like to, not in a workplace. We need to remember these boundaries because sometimes we forget. We need to remember them because they're categorized differently now. On any given day, I could be somewhere and I'm somewhere and, I'm 55. You have gentlemen who don't get it right now. You would think that people who are trying to talk to you or get your attention is going to get it right. They're not going to call you say mama, because I'm not your mama, or say baby, I'm not your baby. So these things we need to, within ourselves, set boundaries of what we will tolerate and what we will not tolerate. How do we respond? We're going to move on. Texting. How many of us text? There's not one single person that has listened to our podcast that does not text. We have texting available for you. Even if you really don't want to leave a message, you can text us. That's why we say voicemail and texting are available. But how many of you have forgotten about conversations, real conversations? Do you text more than you pick up your phone to be able to talk straight to the person? How many of you do that? Trish, what about yourself?
I do that. I text more than I pick up the phone.
Yeah, yeah. And we live in a world that is so remarkably technologized. You get a message pronto. But now, what about when you're at the dinner table? How many of you bring your phone to the dinner table? Let's talk about this for a minute. How many of you are still doing that? Bringing your phones to the dinner table. If there's still such a thing of families or people eating together. Do you bring your phones to the table? And we're still dealing with the pie pieces. How does that look for you when it comes to your setting boundaries? Is there a time that you limit your text? Grown people. What's irritating to me, and I mean it is one of my pet peeves, grown people. It used to be where my mom would be on the phone, and I could hear her laughing and I would wake up. We're not seeing that, and that's okay that the world has gotten so many modern technology things. I love it, but now can we really see and respond? Let's challenge ourselves to more of having open conversations. If I were to ask you when's the last time you had an open conversation, your response would be family or your significant others. But now let me ask you this. When you go into a restaurant, the next time that you go out eating, I want you to take a look. Just scan the room. It takes about a few seconds and tell me how many people are on their phones. You often wonder, is there a boundary? I once heard of a thing, and I really like this, especially for young people, that nobody at the dinner table would have their phones out to text anyone for that hour. You would have to talk to those at your table. You can try that. Challenge yourself for that. I know you think it's going to kill you, but I guarantee you're going to find out some things. Like how was your day? As you go around the table and you safely discover things about your significant others, your children, whoever you are. How hard is it to create a basket or to create a safe space for your family members for that dinner hour to be able to put your phones away? I've heard one gentleman say that his wife reminded him that work does not come to the dinner table. You see, because we are seeing a demise of the family life. When we tell our children to go out and play, do you know what they do? They find their devices. When I was a kid and our parents told us to go and play, play was riding our bikes, getting wet if the weather permitted, uh, running, hopscotch, jacks, dodgeball. We had a real play day. How's that looking? Have you set boundaries for yourselves? Think about it. Because it's going to be an ouch to so many people because we all text. My pet peeve is that grown adults do it because it seems simpler, quicker, and there is just so much time in a day that I have. I do text, but when I want to talk about something really serious, it's a time that I set my boundaries. It's just like having Vibe Talk. We tell you that texting and voicemail is available. We do that as an additional to the calling in. To the calling in. We do that for people that may be at work, for people that may be a little shy about speaking. But if our whole thing, our whole podcast was on texting, you wouldn't be able to hear voices. You wouldn't be able to respond if I said this text was sent, that text. It would be boring to you. Think about that. And we'll be right back. Be right back. Stay tuned. Did you know that you can ask Siri, ask Google, and even ask Alexa, Alexa, I want to hear Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. Try it. We're back. Thank you so much for joining us. What do you think about what I've said, Trish, to my co-host?
I think it does need to be practiced. Like, sitting at the table and enjoying your family and talking to them, because that's how I was raised. We didn't have devices when I was younger. Even though the kids at school, they'll be like, "Why don't you have a phone? You don't have a tablet?" But I would not complain. I love spending time with my family and talking to them. And that's how you get to know them. There are so many families and siblings that don't know anything about each other, but I'm sure they know a lot to the people that they're texting. And it's important to have quality time. And your family is a part of you. They are sort of little pieces of you because you're siblings and you're related. So getting to know them is like a version of getting to know you, comparing, hey, I like this too, and things like that. And you have to learn to separate yourself as well. Putting down your phone also requires that too, separating yourself and getting to know yourself by putting down your devices and spending time and just sitting, thinking. That's what I do. You don't have to do that, but that's what I do. I put my phone to the side and I just sit and think and try to reflect and channel my thoughts and talk to myself. There are many 5 minutes, 15 minutes. It's okay to do that in the day. Put down your devices and make time for yourself and make time for your family.
Yeah, the important thing. Thank you. When we're able to, I want you to do this because I don't want anyone to say, well, the co-host or the host of Vibe Talk Facing the Lions, they don't like texting. No, that's not what we're saying. We're simply saying to communicate person to person, learn more about each other. Because when you're texting so often, because I do text, but I would not text you a verbal consultation. I would not do that because I want to be able to see you. I want to be able to feel you, your expressions is what I mean by that. By what you're saying to me, I want to be able to feel what you're feeling is what I mean by that. And I
I
also,
agree with that.
what was that?
I said I agree with that.
Yeah. So think about that. Could we set boundaries on how many texts we're going to send? Because sometimes Trish and I have to text each other. And texting is good for a lot of things, but for some things, it needs your undivided attention. Moving on. When it comes to spending time in relationships, I might hear this: he, she, they, not spending time, not spending enough time. Are you in a relationship of any kind that you're feeling like this? Not enough time spent, we're not setting boundaries. Um, just heard at my meeting, a spiritual meeting, spending quality time. Such a beautiful discussion on our spending time. Our spending time as a family. Do we set boundaries for that? Because sometimes we could be so busy. Life is just that way. There's only literally 24 hours in a day. And if you take this uh, pi squares and you think about it, you take half of the day. That's more than half of your day. In between that 24 hours, you're going to need to rest and sleep. Okay? So, how much time are you willing to spend with your family members? As my children were growing up, I viewed it essential to spend quality time with them, setting boundaries because I had to work. I made it a point not to bring work home with me. That was my one thing as I began teaching. I was not going to bring work home with me in my personal businesses, not bringing work. I remember one time we were at an amusement park and I had my phone because we all carry our phones. It's necessary. You know, you think about what would we do when we didn't have phones. Well, we didn't have phones and we didn't get the message unless it was on our landlines. Someone called me and I thought, wow, you know, if I didn't set boundaries and it interrupted my family, what would my family look like? So I made it a point to always spend time with my kids, always spend time as a family, quality times. The weekends were necessarily family time. Um, as they grew older, they had their friends. They had their friends, and I allowed time for that. And most of the time, when you sit down as a family and communicate what's going to happen, what's going on, because no family is perfect, what begins to happen, they have an understanding. And my kids had an understanding that we were going to spend a Saturday or a Sunday on family day. Whatever we were doing, one of those days were going to be, because as they got older, I didn't expect them to stay home. I knew that life was not hermits for them, that they were human. They needed to grow and be with their friends and have life experience, or being able to have their own peers. That's important. And so as I made room for that, I always said, if that's what you guys are going to do today, we're going to have family day. Never missed a weekend doing that. And those are things that are, wow, things that make memories. And that's what I want to do. So my kids, they have a lot of memories. A lot of memories. What about you, Trish? Spending time.
Man, it's a lot. I like spending time with my family, especially karaoke night. It's very competitive. My family's very competitive, so we try to outsing each other, and then my dad pulls out the Earth, Wind, and Fire reasons, and, he wins the game, but we're cool. Um, I just love spending time with my family, whether it's playing baseball. We played baseball 2 Sundays ago. It was fun. And we love playing dodgeball, badminton. Like those moments are so awesome. And playing music when my grandparents are just listening and they're always hyping me up, saying I sound good, you know. Shout out to my grandma, my grandpa, love them. And it's just those moments are so beautiful and I cherish them. And yeah, I take out my phone for memories because I'm the person that takes the videos and the pictures of the memories when people forget. And, you know, and it's funny because the moments I don't record, I'm kind of glad I don't because I'm in the moment. And it's okay to forget, to take a record of those things because you're in the moment. You have your mind, you remember it. And quality time is just a precious time, something you should cherish forever, especially the good memories and the bad times. You can always learn from those.
Mm-hmm. We're going to be right back with a wrap up for Vibe Talk Facing the Lion and Trish's Treasures. Hey, what's up? Don't forget to click the button on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Follow us while we're live and interactive. Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast, live and interactive. So you say you want to get well, be well, and stay well? Well, we want to encourage you first and foremost that if you're in any type of counseling resources for that, we also have resources. We want to let you know that communication, start talking. Start talking. It's a great way to ask yourself while you're welling yourself all the questions we just ask you about yourself. As you are searching for wellness, ask yourself the questions that we did when seeking out your wellness journey. Communication is the best way to be able to set boundaries, talk about your feelings, having real access to yourself brings forth healthy relationships and boundaries. They're important. Start these conversations with your loved ones, uh, talking about boundaries, what you like, what you don't like. Let someone know. Say, I'm not comfortable when. Let someone know. Respect others' boundary. Respect. Ask how you feel about that. Be self-aware of you and others, especially our young people that feel like no one is listening. Be the voice for them. Know what is warning signs. Know what is unhealthy, what is abusive, and what is not. We're talking about boundaries for this Wednesday wellness. I'm going to turn it over to Trisha's treasures right after these messages. We'll be right back with Trisha's treasures. You feel like you want to get well, be well, and stay well? Join Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. Find us everywhere you're listening to your podcast. We're back with Trisha's treasures. Trish?
So I wrote a song. It's called Work on Me. And it goes like, we used to click like two peas in a pod. Vibes are different now. I'ma put us on pause. I'm searching for a change. Interior decorating. I need some rearrangements, 'cause I gotta work on me. I gotta work on me. I gotta work on me before I work with you. And I wrote that song because there are many times I wrote that song because there are many times where me and my friends and a person that wants to have a relationship with me asked me, "What are you doing? Why don't you hang out with us?" And I have to be my bigger person and work on me, work on my wellness. I have to do my own self-reflection, because it's not that I don't love them. It's not that I don't feel the same feelings I feel for any of the people that I love. It's the fact that I know I still have some things to work on. And if I just forget about it and just replace it and keep dismissing it, I won't be able to work on myself. And to fulfill your wellness, it's okay to step back, take a look at yourself, and have a one-on-one with yourself, and do your own mirror talk, your own reflection, because it's valid. It's very important, because if you don't know who you are, you can't expect others to tell you who you are. And I've been there. I've expected other people to tell me who I am, and I didn't know what was true. I didn't know which was a lie. I don't know. I did not know at all, because to look at the kind of person that you are is very scary, because you don't want to see the ugly with the good. But it's okay to take the bad and the good, because you're weighing yourself out. You're trying to figure out who you are and what you need to throw away and keep within yourself and reflect. So work on you, pursue your wellness. You got this, you can do it.
Thank you for that. So as Wellness Wednesday progresses today, we want you to think about setting boundaries. Will you change some boundaries? Of course, that's all part of life and growth. But as you change boundaries within your relationship, families, spouses, significant others, whatever it will be, communicate it. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Thank you for joining us. We want to also ask our last and final question of the day. And if you are with us, you hear the podcast, let us know that you've heard the podcast and tell us what state you're from. Please let us know. Say hi to us. We are here. Don't forget that Vibe Talk Facing the Lions has reels. Vibe Talk Facing the Lion reels. And don't forget that we are live and interactive. Our last question of the day. What did you learn and discover about yourself during this podcast on boundaries and setting them? Trish, will start with you.
I learned I have to let people know that I'm working on myself, and not just like stop talking to them, because that makes them confused, and I don't like when people do that to me. So I have to be understanding, and instead of judging them and saying that they're not going to understand me, I have to tell them that, you know, I have to work on me, and I hope you understand, but I'm trying to be straightforward and upright with you. So my experience here today was very memorizing and reflecting, because I memorized the times I had with my family, and I have to memorize to spend quality time for me and work on my wellness.
Yeah. In wowing myself and being on my wellness journey, I think I'm going to take, in fact, not think, I know I'm going to take away from this is that boundary setting is important. I think we all have a sense of boundary. Boundary is not a weakness, it's a strength. And you need to find your boundaries because we all have them. You know, Trish you talked about the gate. You know, picture it much like being that. Some of us have closed gates where we're going to make sure that we are in safe surroundings. Some of us leave our gates opened. But what I say to you today is have the key to access any gate that you choose. Know your boundary. I want to thank my co-host. Thank you for being here today. Thank you all for listening to Vibe Talk. Once you hear us, let us know where you're from. We also have streaming, so go find us. I checked it out the other day. I asked Google to find Vibe Talk Facing the Lion. I was even in my car to ask the car while in Bluetooth to find Vibe Talk. And there it was. Amazing technology is. But we're asking to communicate, communicate, communicate. I feel very well about helping you to understand boundary. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, for hearing Vibe Talk Facing the Lion. Share and reshare with others. And thank you for helping us face our lions with you. Thank you.